For our first conversation, I'm pleased to welcome Ned Segal with the City and County of San Francisco.
Hi.
Hi. Let's get started. So, you bring extensive business experience to this role, including as a former CFO at Twitter. Tell us, how does that experience inform how you approach public policymaking in this new role?
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for the question. One of the neat things about the Lurie administration is there are people who come to the administration who have spent their whole careers in the public sector. That means that they know why we've done things the way that we've done them. It means they know so many of the people who have been doing the work for such a long time. And then you add a few other folks who have not served in city government, but who love the city so much, who care so much about it, and who bring other experience with them. Sometimes the difference is the pace of decision making. The difference is not the pace. The pace is really fast. There's so much coming at us every day, and there's so much opportunity to do things better and differently than we have before. But the pace of decision making is often different. And I think all of us, whether we came from the private sector or we came from the public sector, are really excited about helping people just move faster towards decisions. Sometimes in City Hall, one can think by not saying no, you're actually being kind to folks. Or by saying yes, and the people might be upset by it, if you can avoid the yes or the no, maybe you've avoided upsetting people. And what we're really trying to embrace is we might not be able to make everybody happy with every decision, but inaction can harm a lot of people, whether it's about permit reform or it's about where the bike lane is on Valencia Street or any other topics that we might deal with.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into what some of those initiatives look like. First, I'd like to begin talking about some of these public and private partnerships that Mayor Lurie has announced recently. He successfully raised more than $100 million from billionaire donors to fight homelessness, fund public safety projects, clean up streets, transform Embarcadero Plaza, and fund projects under the heart of the city, his major revitalization plan. So how do you view the growing reliance on private capital to address public challenges?
Well, we see real opportunity to both continue to use public capital and to get more private capital to help solve our city's challenges. One of the great things about Mayor Lurie is he's got experience raising private capital from having founded an anti-poverty organization called Tipping Point, and bringing both the relationships and the know-how. And private capital can move faster, and private entities sometimes can make decisions faster, as we were talking about before. And so when we combine that with what we can do on the public side, we're able to move faster and bring more scale to some of the opportunities that we see, whether it's Powell Street, where we know that those 3 blocks in between Market and Union Square, there's opportunity for those to look like one beautiful promenade with wider sidewalks, with lights from one side to the other, with trees, places for people to sit and enjoy a cup of coffee, things to do while you're waiting at the cable car turnaround. The city raised money through a bond in November of last year, but it didn't raise enough to do it in as amazing a way as we think is possible. And so that's a great example of something we're bringing private capital to complement the public capital is a real opportunity. And when companies, when foundations, when families see an opportunity like that to step up and contribute and help us move faster, to show off our incredible city when the Super Bowl comes next year, when the World Cup comes next summer. These are incredible opportunities to bring public and private capital together.
But do you think safeguards are required to prevent a long-term dynamic where urban problem solving becomes increasingly outsourced to private interests rather than driven by, a balanced budget or sustainable public investment? Or do you think this is the type of long-term strategy that we need as a city moving forward?
I think the strategy we need as a city moving forward is to be flexible and to do what makes the most sense at any given time. There are all kinds of safeguards that we have in place to make sure that whether it's what are called behested payments when city officials raise money for things, to make sure that we're really careful in how we do things, that we disclose them all, that people understand who's involved in what. those are really important rules, and it's great to have them because by respecting them, we can continue to honor and earn the trust that the city officials have with our residents. At the same time, it'd be a shame if we didn't take advantage of the opportunity to bring public and private capital to placemaking opportunities, to the ambassadors. If any of you have gone to the Montgomery or Embarcadero BART stations or Muni stations in the last few months, there are ambassadors who are stationed there now that are actually paid for by donations to the Downtown Development Corp. 911 calls in the last 2 months since those ambassadors have been there from those stations are down over 50%. And it would take the city a lot longer to procure and to execute on putting those ambassadors in place than it is to have an organization that's rowing in the same direction but sits outside of City Hall and to work with them to see things like that through.
Okay. I want to get into the permit reform. So the city says that, it's going to change this bureaucratic system that has been a huge headache for a lot of people for a while. So it's actually going to be different, for someone trying to open a restaurant, convert an office space into housing, build new construction downtown. How soon will people begin to see these improvements manifest?
So back in February, the mayor signed an executive directive creating Permit SF, which is a cross-departmental team who is empowered to make technology decisions and to work across the permitting departments to help us move faster and just serve residents, serve builders, serve entrepreneurs better. There are so many rules that we put in place that are well-intended, but when you stack them up on top of each other, they can make it really hard for people to do the thing that they're passionate about, whether that's running a restaurant, opening a small business, building a home, adding to their home, or just parking in their driveway. And so every 100 days since that date in February when the executive directive came out, we're putting out, so there have been 2 already, there'll be another one in December, new legislation to make it easier for people to do the things that we want them to do in San Francisco. A couple examples that I'm just really proud of that are both important for what they do, but also for the example they set. We used to ask restaurants to come see us once a year and to pay up to $2,500 a year to put tables and chairs outside their restaurants. Now, the rules are important. Tables and chairs, there has to be space for people to get by. But there are a lot more dangerous things that happen in a restaurant than where they put their tables and chairs. And so we passed legislation to make it so that you just register, you tell us you've got tables and chairs outside, but you don't need to come see us and you don't need to pay us $2,500 a year. That's time back and money back for people who are trying to run a business and serve residents here in San Francisco. That's one I love. A second one I really love is if you have a driveway in San Francisco, not the sidewalk, but a driveway, until just recently, you could be fined $1,500 for parking in your driveway. And that can pit neighbors against neighbors because you have to be notified or for somebody to come out and issue a ticket. And it's preventing you from using space that's really part of your property. And so we passed legislation to make it so that people can now park in their driveways without concern for a fine. These are examples. There are others too around building as well, where when you do these things, it's saying to people, we care about this particular issue, but we also care about making it easier for people. And if we make it easier for people, they'll think about doing more in San Francisco than they would have before. We'll see more restaurants, we'll see more small businesses, we'll see more buildings, because people will think that more is possible than they might have before.
So when it comes to those office to housing conversions, we know that these costs can run especially high. And we know that sometimes it can be just as much as demolition or new construction itself. Under Lurie's new plan, projects have until 2032 to sign up under this law he's just signed. So, what's the city's current progress on approving and breaking ground on these projects, and how soon can we begin to see some of those realized?
So there are a couple of pieces of legislation that were passed over the last 6 months or so, which should make it much easier to convert older office buildings into housing. And before I explain the legislation, let me just take a step back and say, downtown is this incredible opportunity that we've found ourselves with that nobody hoped for, but we have to look at as an incredible opportunity. The goal is not to make downtown like it was in 2019 or like it was in some previous year. We want a downtown that meets this next century. And in order to do that, it needs to be a downtown where people live, where people work, where they play, and where they learn. The world's changed so much since our downtown was established and since it last changed. It has been a place where people went to and sometimes still go to work, and it's been a place where people shopped and stayed in hotels. But we need a neighborhood downtown, and that means conversion, so we go from like 10,000 people living downtown to 30. It means creating the conditions so that people want to come back to work. It means making it easier for people to play downtown. It's not really a destination that people go to eat or to go to bars. People sometimes stay to do those things. So we got 20 more liquor licenses from the state for just the downtown area so we can create more density so it's a destination as well as a place where people would stay. And we've been working closely with many higher education institutions, in particular Vanderbilt, in the recent past to also make this a place where people can come and learn. There just aren't a lot of incredible downtowns on the planet that don't also have institutions of higher learning at real scale as well. Now, to go back to your question about legislation for housing conversions, we're trying to remove all the impediments because it's expensive. So we're waiving the transfer tax. We're putting the property tax, or the city's portion of the property tax, back to the developer for the first 30 years. We removed the affordable housing requirement, which it's not durable to do that across the city all the time, but in order to get these expensive projects moving, that felt like an important trade-off to make. The final piece is that property tax going back to the developer. That becomes effective in January. I think when that happens, you'll see buildings start to trade, and you'll see projects start to happen. And a few years from now, that means you'll see more people living, working, playing, and learning downtown.
I want to ask you about the future of the former Westfield Mall, because you're talking about what it takes to build a neighborhood and to build community, and you need a shopping center that's lively and vibrant to demonstrate that, right? There's evidence that there's appetite for this in San Francisco. We've seen just how much, like Stonestown, for example, has changed for the better. By contrast, the mall in downtown has suffered a really dramatic decline. So what explains this stark contrast? What does it say about the health of downtown presently? And how is the city planning on reviving the site to make it a vibrant corridor again?
So the mall is a wonderful microcosm for the opportunity downtown. It's a building that's owned by one entity, that's on land that's owned by two other entities, that is massively underutilized, that was created for a different time. We look at that and we say, it's not our jobs nor our expertise to decide what ought to go there. It's our jobs to create the conditions so that the smartest people with the best ideas and the most capital can turn that mall into whatever it should be. Now, we have rules and laws in place to make sure that it doesn't turn into something that it shouldn't be. But that means that if it's experiential entertainment, if it is a mall again, if it's a place for people to play sports, the people will decide, and because of the permit reform work, because we're working so hard to help downtown be cleaner and safer, crime downtown is down 40% year over year. More and more people are coming back to the office. These types of things, these are creating the conditions so that smart people with access to capital can come up with brilliant ideas and will be confident that they can see them through at the mall as well as in other places downtown.
Well, Ned, that's all the time that we have. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.